Hi, I'm Dr. Kurt Wooler. The title of this Autism Biomed Essentials video is the Organic Acids Test in Clostridia Bacterial Toxins. So this video is sponsored by Autism Recovery System, which is a comprehensive educational and resource website for parents and caregivers of an individual with autism or other special needs disorders. You can get more information about this membership site by going to autismrecoverysystem.com, or you can also email us at autismrecoverysystem@gmail.com. Now, within the Autism Recovery System website, there are many sections with information from articles to videos to a member forum where questions can be posted to me. There's also a very comprehensive 6-module biomedical course called Autism Biomed Essentials. All of that is within the Autism Recovery System website. Here is the disclaimer for this video, understanding that the information presented is for educational purposes only. So when we talk about biomedical intervention, we'll sometimes use terminology like integrative medicine for autism or functional medicine for autism. So some of these terms are exchanged or interchangeably. Biomedical intervention has been around for a long time just to describe the fact that what is being implemented from a lifestyle dietary testing standpoint is really trying to get at the underlying biological, biochemical imbalances that could be contributing to problems with individuals with autism. So many years ago, I developed something called the 4-pillar approach, which understood that in order to really get benefit from more advanced therapies, whether that's hyperbaric, whether that's heavy metal detox, whether that's things that are dealing with immune system problems, etc., we have to go and have implemented foundational principles and interventions or strategies. So dietary intervention, for example, is very important. Foundational supplements is very important. Methylation and the methylation cycle is important to understand how that relates. And one of the major pillars within my 4-pillar approach is understanding the relationship between the digestive system, the microbiome of the digestive system, and pathogens that can exist within the gut and how they can affect behavior, cognitive function, brain, and neurological function. And one of those areas that we focus heavily on is what's called Clostridia bacteria. Now, most individuals are familiar with Clostridia, specifically a bacteria called Clostridia difficile, which is known to cause bowel disease. But not all Clostridia cause problems, but some Clostridia species definitely cause major issues. Interestingly, there are different strains of Clostridia difficile, so not all of them will cause bowel disease either. And one of the labs that we have performed on thousands of individuals over the years who are on the autism spectrum is the organic acids test from Mosaic Diagnostics. Now, Mosaic Diagnostics was formerly called Great Plains Laboratory, and I teach entire seminars on this particular test. And it's a very important test as a urine profile. It assesses for many different what are called metabolites of our body's metabolism that are expressed in the urine. And it also picks up on metabolites of pathogens within the digestive system. So it can analyze for the presence of different fungal organisms like Candida, sometimes colonization of mold like Aspergillus in the digestive tract. And it also analyzes for certain organic acids that are linked to the existence of different types of Clostridia bacteria. And so the information that is assessed through the organic acid test can be used for different interventional strategies for gut problems, for chronic pain, for neurological problems, etc. And so the test is extremely useful for that. So as I mentioned before, Clostridia difficile is probably the most well-known Clostridia that produces different toxins that can cause bowel disease. Clostridium tetani, Clostridia botulinum, perfringens, or other types of Clostridia as well. So when you do an organic acids test, there are 4 markers that show up on this profile that are representative of overgrowth or increased expression of Clostridia bacteria within the digestive tract. We have the 4-hydroxyphenylacetic, the HPHPA, and 4-creosol, as well as the last one, 3-indolacetic. I'm not going to mention much about 3-indolacetic. You don't see it that often, but you will see a lot of HPHPA. Now notice that HPHPA, this compound, comes from a number of different Clostridia bacteria, but it's not known to be produced by Clostridia difficile. The Clostridia difficile is evidenced with the 4-creosol marker on this test, but that creosol doesn't necessarily mean that an individual has the type of Clostridia that would be causing inflammatory bowel disease. It's entirely possible to have Clostridia difficile present with no inflammatory markers, but the existence of creosol. One of the things to remember about these organic acid markers is that these particular compounds have more of a negative effect within the brain and nervous system, as opposed to causing a primary problem within the digestive system. So the most common one that we see is the HPHPA. Second most common would be the 4-creosol. Third would be the 4-hydroxyphenylacetic. So it's actually relatively rare to see all 3, but it is clinically significant. And so this is an important test to do and not just rely on stool testing for the existence of these organisms. And what's happening clinically in individuals with special needs is it's known biochemically that many of these bacterial compounds that are produced by Clostridia can interfere with an enzyme called dopamine beta hydroxylase. And what dopamine beta hydroxylase does is it converts dopamine to norepinephrine. So this norepinephrine is being blocked by my image, but norepinephrine is then the precursor to epinephrine. So this is very much involved in producing energy neurotransmitter chemicals. And when the dopamine beta hydroxylase gets inhibited, and by the way, this is a reaction that occurs throughout the body, not just the brain, because the enzyme reactions are the same, we can get an increase of dopamine. Now, initially, the brain and nervous system can handle that okay, but too much dopamine that accumulates within a nerve cell can be toxic. And so it generates a lot of what's called oxygen species, can deplete glutathione, and cause death and damage to brain cells over time. And you'll notice that creosol and HPHPA are represented on this slide. So Clostridium difficile is known to produce 4-creosol, and then other types of Clostridia are known to produce HPHPA. One of the other things that's important with regards to amino acid supplementation is to avoid phenylalanine and tyrosine as typically what I do as individual supplements, or even sometimes as a combination amino acid product, is to avoid using those until we can confirm that Clostridia doesn't exist and that we don't already have a problem of high 4-creosol and HPHPA. Because when these compounds are high, what happens is behavioral issues can come about, sometimes aggressive behavior, self-injurious behavior, impulsive behavior. In some individuals, there have been situations where psychosis has been induced. Now, it doesn't mean that that's happening in everybody, but there is the potential for that to exist. And so if you have a child that is having behavioral issues or cognitive problems or self-injurious behavior, it's absolutely important in my experience to do an organic acid test to make sure that Clostridia in one of these forms doesn't exist. So this is a fundamental test to have done in the biomedical interventional strategies of autism in my experience. And it's also important to understand that it's difficult to manipulate just one neurotransmitter. There's an overlap in how these things function, from serotonin to norepinephrine to dopamine. And so in most people, it's an interrelationship between these neurotransmitters as opposed to the a neurotransmitter existing or having an influence all on its own. But we can see that if we have problems in dopamine that maybe affect norepinephrine, it could affect attention and could affect mood and cognitive function and impulse control, etc. So again, a fundamental test to have done, very, very important. And so within the Autism Recovery System website is the course I mentioned, the Autism Biomed Essentials. And there is a document that is part of that course called the Top 10 Reasons to Do the Organic Acid Test from Mosaic Diagnostics Laboratory. And I go into this test more in depth within that course. So again, the website is Autism Recovery System. The course within the website is Autism Biomed Essentials. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at autismrecoverysystem@gmail.com. Again, I am Dr. Kurt Wohler for Autism Recovery System. Thank you.